Well, good morning or good afternoon. This is Lee Baldwin. I'm the Director of Autonomous Systems at AutonomouStuff, and I'd like to thank you all for attending our webinar that's specifically going to focus on Qumulo, a leader in the enterprise storage and a very good complement to what AutonomouStuff does. So what I'd like to do is spend a few minutes and introduce those of you to AutonomouStuff and what we do, how Qumulo fits in, and then I'll hand everything over for the bulk of the hour to Molly Presley. She's the lead for global product marketing for Qumulo. So I'd like to spend a few minutes just to background of AutonomouStuff and where we sit if you're not familiar with what we do. We've been around for 10 years and basically have focused on enabling, accelerating autonomy for academia and private companies. And the main reasons why we come in is we can help bring organizations up to speed, and so it helps you reduce your development time if you're developing an autonomy system or ADAS system. And we do this by focusing on some of the best technologies, sensor companies, and tools in the industry such as Qumulo. And that's what we're going to talk about Qumulo today in storage. So I'm a product manager at AutonomouStuff, and specifically it's for the autonomy systems that we market. And some of it is a collection of systems, open source, as well as custom built applications that we've done. So AutonomouStuff initially started out of our founder, Bobby Hambrick's garage, actually, in 10 years ago near Morton, Illinois. Morton's about 3 hours drive south of Chicago, Illinois. And ever since Bobby started the company, and he started selling basically sensors, and it has grown into a full portfolio, so that now we're a recognized brand. So continuous growth, which is really big from a startup standpoint the whole time, and Bobby did it on his own. He just started the company and did all of that, and he grew it to the point where we have thousands of customers worldwide across a broad spectrum. And then obviously somebody took notice, and in 2018, Hexagon, a Swedish company that we had already distributed several sensors that are in their portfolio, acquired us in September of 2018. And Hexagon's a company of about 16,000 employees globally, again, headquartered out of Sweden. There's next slide. The portfolio of solutions that AutonomouStuff focuses on, I mentioned a few of them already, the sensors. So products, these are basically building blocks if you were to focus on building an autonomy system. These are components such as GNSS receivers, cameras, LiDAR. And so we partner with companies that produce these sensors. And that's again where Hexagon took notice. The other thing we do is we have an engineering team headquartered in Morton, Illinois, where our R&D center is. And from an engineering services, we put together, we can build subroutines, subsystems. I've got a good perception background and custom engineering solutions. And then through time, what we have done is also develop some specific solutions, perception solutions like traffic light systems that recognize traffic lights, and neural networks for those, and specific software that can control an autonomous vehicle that we call, for example, like shuttle software. And one of the real interesting things that we've done is we've developed these drive-by-wire platforms. And to date, we've got more, right around 500 drive-by-wire systems in the field globally. So that's one of the reasons why we're certainly recognized. And those drive-by-wire platforms can be used to accelerate, again, the R&D in for a variety of different companies, OEMs, tier ones, or academia focusing on developing engineers for the future. And then what brings Qumulo into the equation is data intelligence. What data intelligence is basically the tools that are required to build that autonomous vehicle. This could be anywhere from gathering the data generated by the sensors, which is vast, 8 to 20 terabytes in a single vehicle per day, depending on how many cameras or LiDARs you have. And those are the sensors that really generate the bulk of the data. And data intelligence spans storage, what you do with the data after you get it. Typically, you have to annotate it, train your neural networks, and then drive millions of miles in simulation. And we have a portfolio that expands on each of those areas. And I mentioned customers, and our customers, there are automotive OEMs, so especially startup OEMs that need to front end their engineering effort internally, that they use our services, or if they're just trying to figure out and develop an autonomy stack, they may need some access to some sensors. Universities, mentioned engineering, startups. So we really cover a lot of different industries to help them so they don't have to contact and find these sensor companies directly. And then I mentioned the drive-by-wire. That's a big piece of it. If you're developing a machine and your engineers are focusing maybe on hardening certain components, but you need the full vehicle, we'll take any vehicle and turn it into a robot via our drive-by-wire engineering team. And we've basically partnered across all of these areas. Next slide. So I mentioned some of the applications, and so from the variety of areas that we operate in, you get good at certain things. For example, object tracking and classification. With our work with some of the open source full autonomy stacks like AutoWare, and we are a member of the AutoWare Foundation, we've gotten good at object tracking and classification for, again, stoplights and in general the object detection. And so that's where we furthered our field of work in artificial intelligence. So these are just a few areas. 3D mapping, we've gotten a lot of exposure to different mapping companies and work with a couple in particular that can quickly deploy and go to your map a route for you and get you going quickly. So a lot of this just again to accelerate your R&D. Mention remote control. That can be remote control of machines as well, and we have partners in that and have implemented some of that technology. So really our portfolios is again back to the accelerating your efforts. So I want to turn it over to Molly from Qumulo, and I want to mention a few things about Qumulo and why we chose Qumulo. So one of the reasons why was Qumulo was in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and they're a leader, and that is a big deal for IT. I have an IT background many years ago, and that was one of the things we always looked at, was where was the supplier in the Magic Quadrant. The other thing, and one of the reasons why they're in there, is a lower total cost of their solution. And what I was particularly intrigued with was the ease to add capacity to Qumulo. It's enterprise storage, and I remember that always being a very difficult thing. And it's quite easy, and a lot of it has to do with their management console user interface is very modern. They have a good product support tool set. They use Slack to get at. And then one of the other reasons why their solution has a lower TCO is just the way it's connected. They use Ethernet, and a lot of the legacy, fiber channel and things like that are pretty difficult to manage. They replaced with as Ethernet has evolved. So, and then what they do is if somebody doesn't necessarily want to build a data center and run all that stuff, their file system, which is really their secret sauce, also runs in the cloud. And Molly will talk about that. So I'd like to turn it over to Molly now, and she's the lead for the global product marketing at Qumulo.
Great, thanks, Lee. Yeah, I really appreciate you all jumping on today and for taking some time to learn about this partnership. If you wouldn't mind jumping to the next slide, I think that, what I want to talk a little bit about is, one more slide, please, is a little bit about kind of how Qumulo fits within the environment. When we think about our users who are doing research, innovation, trying to build new products, generally speaking, the infrastructure, the storage, and the IT that you need, you want to be as transparent and easy to manage as possible. That most of you are probably much more focused on the innovation on the autonomy side, and you need to capture that information, derive useful information from your data, but you don't want to be IT administrators either. And that's really what Qumulo is trying to do, is make the storage systems, the data services, the analytics you need to do as transparent as possible to you, while still offering you the power of everything you need. So kind of breaking this down a little bit, as Lee mentioned, vehicles go out into on the streets, in the fields, wherever we're capturing data, and have sensors and really high resolution cameras that are gathering data. When that's been captured and moved into the storage system, you need a storage system with a few different attributes. It needs to have the performance and the ability to manage both big and small files, because the images coming off a camera will have a different way that they're handled by a storage system than some of the smaller bits coming off of a sensor, for example. So when you think about a Qumulo storage system, it's designed to very quickly pull all of that data off of the camera or across the 5G network, however it's coming into us, and be able to ingest that content with that mixed workload very, very quickly. As your system fills up, you have a variety of ways that you can add capacity. If you want to just buy another node, another 2U node, and put it into the environment, it takes about 2 minutes to add that capacity, and the Qumulo software will rebalance across that so that your applications are still running, you're still ingesting from your vehicles, you're still doing analytics on the data. Take a couple of minutes to point the new IP address to the Qumulo cluster, and it will rebalance and give the new capacity and the new performance to the users and the applications very, very quickly and transparently. With legacy systems, that simple process was very difficult. It often required downtime. It might have required updating two different systems, maybe a metadata and a storage system separately. Then you had to figure out how to get the two aware of each other. And there was just a lot of administrative burden on it. And that's where a more modern file system has been so valuable, as most of the data being created now is being created in business units that don't have a big IT staff. We've needed to make this more simple. So as you've added more capacity, as you've added more performance, the other great benefit is that same system that you're offloading the data out of your vehicles into the storage system can be used for your analytics, to run test cases, to derive the information you want to out of the data that's been captured. So you don't need a separate system for analytics as you do for storage. It can all be done in a single system with very high performance ingest. And then as you're analyzing, your analytics applications require a lot of performance to have low latency and fast results. And that can all be done simultaneously. As you think about where your applications live, they may live in a data center somewhere, they may live up in the cloud, Your user machines may be running some of the applications, and that's part of the great pieces of the Qumulo architecture as well. We run on Ethernet networks, so if you're direct connected into a data center along with your storage, that's fine. If your users are running on workstations on Ethernet, that's fine. And if you want to move up to the cloud for any of the number of different applications and tools that are running in Amazon or Google or Azure, Qumulo can move your data to your applications in your cloud as well. So you really have the simplicity of no matter where your applications live, from a networking perspective, it's easy to connect to Qumulo. And then from a data movement perspective, we can get the data to wherever those applications are. So if you need to move from a garage where you're pulling data out of the vehicle up into the cloud, we have some policies we can set in the system to move that data up to the cloud. Maybe it's going to be stored in the cloud long term, or maybe you're just moving into the cloud to do some analysis. And once you have those results, you'll delete the data and just keep the results, or you'll move the data back on-prem. There's a lot of flexibility on how that works, but the key takeaway is we'll move the data to your applications wherever they reside. It's policy-based, it's very easy to do, and really frees you up to take advantage of the compute and application power of the cloud, or keep everything on-prem in your data center. You know, each of you probably are handling this very differently. With the Qumulo software, it's the same software in the data center as what you use in the cloud. So once you learn how to administer and you learn how to add capacity and you learn how to set policies, which is, you know, a couple hours, it's quite easy. You don't have to learn anything new when you go up to the cloud. It's the exact same interfaces, the exact same software. So it makes that cloud transition much easier. Going on to the next slide, please. Some of the examples for ADAS, you know, there's a lot of different types of workloads and different types of environments that we are targeted towards. And if you think about the types of things that you need for these different use cases, in some cases it's a lot of scale, the scale to millions or billions of files that have, some are large, some are small. In other cases, you have the requirement that there's applications that you want to tie into the Qumulo software and take advantage of some of our real-time architecture, which I'll talk about that here in just a second. But we can tie all of our applications together over an API so that your software in the loop test can tie automatically to the APIs and real-time architecture of Qumulo, so that as data is changing, as we're deriving analytical information out of our system, we can share that with the software that we're integrated with. And so there's a lot of things that we've done, not just to be a simple storage system, but to be able to move the data to where the applications are and provide the data services that are really tightly integrated with your applications to make your workload move faster, to make your technical team have to spend less time on administration, and really simplify the end-to-end experience. Going on to the next slide, please. Just to give you a feel for what the analytics looks like, very unique to Qumulo. We're the only file system or file storage solution out there that has built-in real-time analytics. And what the benefit is it really helps you to get the most performance that you can out of your system. With a really easy-to-use dashboard, we'll let you know which users, which applications are getting the performance that is expected. If you're starting to have an issue where you need more performance to burst the work on a specific analytical job, we can show you where is the bottleneck, or if there's a bottleneck. Great for driving application performance, but it's also great if you have anything like chargeback that you need to do. If you're a very large organization and you have different groups and different applications that need to be charged for usage of the system, or you have SLAs where you've guaranteed a certain amount of performance or capacity to different projects or different work groups, we can do that through this system as well. So we help you with optimizing performance, but also reporting on how much performance and capacity is being used by different users. It will even help you predict when you're going to need to add more capacity. So if you have budget planning exercises you need to do, and you need to know at which point in the trajectory will I run out of capacity in the system, we'll do predictive analytics to provide that to you. And then we'll also give you the information on if you thought you bought a petabyte of storage and you feel like you aren't getting the efficiency you want out of it, it will also help you identify why. Maybe you're taking advantage of some of the data protection capabilities built into the system, and that's using more space than you expected. We'll show that visually to you to make it very easy for you to make the decisions of, should I maybe reduce the frequencies that I'm making from the snapshots and copies of my data, or should I buy more capacity? Again, just going back to, without a master's degree in some kind of computer science or IT, that you can have good information about your system and really focus on the work that you're doing. Next slide, please. You'll see that each of these interfaces look very similar. A great tool for Qumulo, not only do we run the same software and management layer on-prem, in the cloud, across distributed data centers, but it's a single management interface for everything you do. Everything from setting data migration policies or data movement policies to the real-time analytics, to provisioning a new user, adding more capacity. That's all just done through a single GUI. It's in one management interface. If you'd like to work over command lines, everything you can do in the GUI, you can do over command line. So it gives you that kind of flexibility to have the system managed in the way that's most comfortable to you, to get the reports you need for your business in the way that's most useful, and then to really provide all the information about your data sets, how they're being used, to your engineers, so you can really make sure that you're using your platform in the way that will be most helpful to the application users, that is meeting the budget requirements, that when you went in and said you're going to buy a system and spend $500,000, that you're really getting the ROI and how it's being used if you need to charge it to anybody else in the environment. Next slide, please. Lee mentioned our global leadership, and this is really important. And we've really found that as Qumulo came out of stealth mode, we're kind of new. We came out of stealth in 2015. Most people tend to want to have a company that's well validated by their peers, that has enough references, that there are early adopters, but being an early adopter can be risky. And we're well past that point now. That in 2016, we were noted as a vendor to watch. By 2017, we were seen as a visionary. And then the last 2 years, we've been a leader in our market. And this is really competing against legacy technologies as an alternative that were more complicated to manage, required fiber channel or InfiniBand networks, required a lot of tiering where you had to move your data from one storage type to another to be cost effective. Maybe those legacy technologies didn't have a cloud integration. Those were all the pain points that we had the luxury to solve when we built a new file system here in the past decade. And so now why Gartner really recognizes us is it's very simple to integrate cloud into your strategies. We'll move the data for you. You can spin us up in an Amazon marketplace, for example, in 5 minutes. Set policies to move the data to Amazon and be using cloud very, very quickly to take advantage of the cloud applications. The scalability, and without going into a lot of details about the kinds of problems that scalability could have with a legacy system, one of the biggest pain points was if you bought a petabyte of storage and you stored a lot of small files, thinking sensor data specifically, they were stored really, really inefficiently. That to store 100 terabytes of actual data sometimes would take 800 terabytes or 8 to 10x the storage just because it was so inefficient. And so as data has grown and the complexity of data and the types of data has become more diverse, having a file system that can store that all efficiently makes it possible for you to take advantage of the budget the way you planned. It's a terrible situation for everyone involved. The people designing the products, for the people who bought the products, and everybody in between. That if you have a project and you're expecting that you're going to have a petabyte of capacity and that's going to help you with a fleet of cars that may be 20 research vehicles with certain types of cameras and sensors, and you've already worked through and thought all that through, and then you find out halfway in the project you actually didn't get enough storage or performance to meet your needs, and the budget is already spent. We don't want our customers to ever be in that situation. Those were the kinds of issues that would come up when you didn't have real-time analytics, when you didn't have really good storage efficiency for these complex data sets that Qumulo has solved. So those are the types of things that we've done that have Gartner markets as a leader in this space. And then the other piece is we just have fantastic peer reviews. So if you go up to Gartner Peer Insights and you look at Qumulo, If you've never looked at it, it's kind of fun. Certainly for me, looking at how our users talk about Qumulo, but it will tell you live reviews that we have no input or impact on when they do the reviews or what they say. And what you'll see is our customer support experience, which we call customer success, is second to none. We set up Slack channels where we communicate with our customers over Slack. And you might think, okay, well, that's kind of interesting, but what the benefit to you really is there's no situation where you have to make a phone call to your support line and then supply your contract number and then say, I'm Joe Smith, and they say, oh, well, gosh, Joe, you're not the owner of the support contract, your name's not on the contract. And then you go through tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3, and it can be a tedious process. One I think all of us have been through in one way or another. Qumulo kind of wanted to just flatten that entire experience. And so when you Slack the customer success team, whether you're asking a question about best practices on how to use one of our features, or if you're in the middle of a disaster and systems are down, your Slack channel is monitored by systems engineers, product managers, and even developers at Qumulo. So if it needs to get escalated, it all happens in that Slack channel, and it happens without you ever having to ask because you have experts monitoring that line. It's pretty cool. It's a way to have a real live conversation with Qumulo, just like we're part of your team sitting at your site, without a lot of those challenges that you might have otherwise had. And again, this goes back to, I suspect the majority of you are much more focused on the results of your research than the administration of your systems. And we want to make this really easy and a low barrier to entry for you to get into having this kind of technology available at your fingertips to accelerate applications, to do analytics, to leverage cloud, store vast amounts of data. Next slide, please. I've talked about recognition. We are recognized by other companies other than Gartner. As you think about the different use cases, whether you're in hybrid cloud or if you're doing a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence, you can kind of see the different types of awards and recognition Qumulo has. So I think the key takeaway is you're not taking a risk by working with Qumulo. We are a modern storage company. Providing data services to applications is really what we're focused on. But in the end, we're past that early adopter phase and are really trusted by some of the largest global brands in the world, both in autonomy and manufacturing, as well as just the kind of more traditional enterprises who have really stringent requirements for things like security and uptime and availability. We really meet the needs of both types of environments at this point and have the reference customers that will make you more comfortable as you consider making a move like this. Next slide, please. And then why people can buy Qumulo is not just about the technology, but it's also about the ecosystem and the kinds of ways that you can procure Qumulo. We're available on a variety of different types of hardware platforms. We're available in the cloud. AutonomouStuff has, and we're going to talk a little bit about the configurations that are available here in just a second. AutonomouStuff has full access to the entire Qumulo portfolio of our software, and then the availability to integrate it on any of the different platforms. And what that provides to you is flexibility that if you are concerned about vendor lock-in, where you go to a company and you spend your budget and you find out after 3 years the upgrade costs and support costs go up a lot, but there's no way to get out of that contract. We offer a lot more flexibility by giving you a choice of platforms where you run the Qumulo software. The Qumulo software, if you buy a petabyte of software to run in your data center today and realize 6 months from now or 2 years from now that you need to run some of that in the cloud or in 2 different data centers instead of a single data center, all of that licensing is fully transferable. So you get the investment protection of, if you want to move your capacity around and you don't need to buy more capacity, it's simply a shift, that licensing can go with you. And then from an NPS perspective, we do have, right now, our NPS score is 87, which was just finished up here a couple of weeks ago. So that overall customer satisfaction score is as high as anyone in the industry right now. So there's kind of a nice balance of investment protection, good technology that will accelerate your science, accelerate your product development, and then a nice, easy to work with company that makes it, a pleasure to do the business with Qumulo and to let you focus on your business and not on your storage. Next slide, please. I actually just covered this here. A little bit more about NPS if you aren't familiar with it. It's essentially a quarterly process that you use to get feedback from your install base on the quality of service you're receiving. Are we giving you what we promised? Were there any, surprises after deploying once you've actually bought? Was it what you expected? Those are the types of things that an NPS rating teases out from customers. So making sure that we really are using the storage efficiently, that we are taking advantage of the budgets the way we said, all those types of things is really what NPS is about. And then of course, just are the systems up and running and performant? Do you have the features that work? Are there bugs in the product? All of that is handled in an NPS score as well. Next slide, please. So this is a super verbose slide, I recognize that. And really the main thing that we wanted to cover here is this is how we have kits queued up with within AutonomouStuff. So we made it easy, even though we have a lot of different options, they are configurable. We made it really easy for you to size what type of storage system you're going to need to meet your fleet's requirements. So a small one being just, a smaller set, maybe a few vehicles as you're starting to get started, all the way up to very large environments where you have dozens of vehicles out on the street, lots of data analytics being done. We make it easy to size these different environments, and it includes everything you need. It includes the file system software, all the features I talked about. There's no extra charge for any extra features. If you want data migration, or you want to have data backups, or if you want to be able to copy to the cloud, all of that's included. That's just part of a single standard software cost. And so there's no surprises if you realize later you need to encrypt your data or something like that, which isn't super common in this area. But, let's say you had a requirement all of a sudden do encryption. All those things we would add, for those features would be included for no charge, even if they're features that don't exist today. Future features you'll get for free when they do come out. So really, what we want to do is make it easy to size your environment, match it to your fleet. AutonomouStuff, as they integrate the entire project, will do most of this work for you. Make sure you have exactly the performance, the capacity, everything you need. And then if we go on to the next slide, we can deliver this all as hardware-based solutions that are running in your data center, or have some blend of data that's running up in the cloud and on-prem. So very flexible in the way we architect solutions. We have a very good understanding of the data rates coming off the sensors, off the cameras, as well as the performance requirements for the analytical applications. And we've sized all these to make it very easy for you to make sure you'll have everything you need in the solution you buy. Next slide, please. And then on the kits overview, some of the benefits that we wanted to give to you, just to give you a feel for the simplicity, which Lee talked about. All of this is running on existing Ethernet networks. If you have a 10 gig network, 100 gig network, whatever it may be, your Qumulo system can run seamlessly off of that. Every time you add a node, it includes everything you need in that node: more processors, more capacity, more cache, more memory. All of that comes every time you add a box. All of that's already built into the box to make sure as you scale, you're scaling enough compute power and enough memory and enough capacity to meet your ongoing demand, versus trying to figure out, oh, do I need to buy processing or do I need to buy capacity? We take care of that for you. And that's what we're talking about there when we say linear scale of performance and capacity. The form factor is the same that you would see in a hyperscale environment. So industry standard commodity hardware. And we use that word very intentionally because I talked about we don't have vendor lock-in, where if down the road you want to switch to a different platform for hardware, that's fine. We don't put any restrictions on using Qumulo specific hardware, but more importantly, you get the economic advantage of using industry standard hardware, that we ride that commodity curve. As prices of chassis, as prices of memory, as prices of disk drives, all of that starts to come down, we just pass that along, those cost savings along to our partners and to our customers. So we have a very small markup just to take advantage, just to handle our costs for doing some testing and things like that to qualify the new technology. But we're in the software business, not in the hardware business, and all of us benefit from that because we're not adding cost in the hardware by designing our own hardware or using something funky that is a little off mainstream and doesn't get to ride the commodity curves down. And that's really what it's all about, is more data, more research, more analytics, and budgets are never growing at the rate any of us want to, so we have to be very, very efficient with it when we do that. Once we implement the systems, adding the capacity is seamless, but it's also self-healing. So if you have disk drives go bad, if you have an entire node go bad, we have something called erasure coding, which is essentially a data protection scheme that scales across all the different nodes. So we can handle multiple simultaneous failures, never lose data, have a self-healing type of architecture so that until you get around to replacing whatever the failed component was, you're up and running and there's no risk to keeping your work going, and there's no risk to losing data, which is important. I mean, in this market, you have a vehicle who goes out and captures data on Tuesday, you can't ever capture that again. The environment, things are going to change, and losing data is just terrible. We have a lot of capabilities built into our system to protect against that. And then lastly, whether you need performance or if you need long-term retention, you get great performance out of the Qumulo system at archived prices, and you get that all with a single tier, simple architecture that doesn't require tiering, managing multiple different types of storage systems. So it's just a great way to simply get to the objectives that you need. So I hope this is helpful for you. AutonomouStuff and the overall Hexagon team have all the answers to your storage, but your much broader projects that you're working on. We'd love for you to reach out to them if you have any questions or if you have any needs, and Qumulo will be here supporting them. Thank you so much for taking the time. We will be sharing this presentation out across social media and whatnot after the recording is finished, so we will make this presentation available to you as well. Thank you so much.